I have a deep, dark secret to share with you guys. I have never played a FromSoft game before, and it's not because I'm not interested in any of the FromSoft games, Demon Souls, Sekiro, Bloodborne, etc. It's simply because I don't exactly have a lot of money and I have to be very selective with the games I buy, and there would always just be another game that I was more interested in whenever I would consider buying a Dark Souls game. However, I am a massive fan of Gundam, and I've basically just given up on the idea of ever having a really high quality, really good Gundam game. So I'm like, you know what? Armored Core is probably the closest I'm ever gonna get to getting a really good Gundam game. So I'm like, screw Mortal Kombat 1, I'm gonna buy Armored Core instead. And I'm glad I did, because Armored Core 6 is a really good game. Now, currently I've only done one playthrough of it. I know there's like 3 endings total, I believe, and I know that there's New Game Plus that gives you more missions as well as more like armor, and then I know there's basically New Game Plus which does the exact same thing, even more missions and even more armor to play around with, which is pretty cool. I like that. Similar to like Nier Automata, where like in Nier Automata there's technically like 4 different playthroughs you can do, which is crazy. I'm definitely looking forward to my next playthroughs. I already designed my new mech. In my first playthrough, I went with like a speedy, lightweight, fast shotgun and energy sword build. It was really fun. I quite enjoyed it. I've decided to do the exact opposite this time. And I'm going with a slow, heavy tank build just because, hey, I want a new experience this time. Here's a picture of it. It looks pretty cool in my opinion. I really like the colors. I'm quite a fan of how this turned out. Definitely excited to play it. So, Armored Core. It's a really fun game. I quite enjoy the gameplay. It's definitely different from what I've seen of like the different Souls games. In the Souls games, you're like very slow and methodical. You're like waiting to respond to your opponent. That's not the case in Armored Core. In Armored Core, it is like constant movement. You are constantly doing things where you're either boosting or dodging or like flying up in the air, shooting your guns, using your energy swords, using your missiles, like using your like energy shield thingies that you can equip. It's a really fast-paced game where you constantly have to be making decisions. It's very similar to things like Devil May Cry or like Nier Automata. Like I mentioned, it's more of a fast-paced action game than it is the slow, heavy, methodical Souls game, you know? And that's not to say there's anything wrong with the Souls formula. Like I said, I've never played any of the Dark Souls games, and I think I would enjoy those games. Like, they look fun, but I'm also just personally a fan of more fast-paced action games, and Armored Core is more like that. It's really fun. I like that even though the gameplay isn't really that deep. Like, for the most part, you're just pressing R2 or pressing L2 or R1 or L1 to shoot your weapons or use your swords. There's no real, like, combos by any means. I like how different the gameplay can be just based on the build you're going for. Or you're going for a fast-paced, like, speedy thing like I did in my first time, or you're going for a more slow, heavy, like, raw firepower, like, tank build kind of thing. Even though the core gameplay is fairly simple, there's a lot of depth to it simply based on how you build your armors or your Gundams. And I quite like that. It's really interesting. It's quite fun. On the surface, it doesn't really look like that deep of a game, but once you actually get in there and really explore the different armor types and different weapons and all of that, you realize that there's actually a surprising amount of depth. It's really, really fun. Something that really surprised me when I was playing is just how much time I spent building my Gundam. Like, legit, I have a solid like 2 hours of footage where I'm just messing around designing my Gundam with like the different colors, but also just figuring out like what equipment I want to give it. I spend so much time in the garage, dude. It is crazy. You can just lose yourself in the garage. It is insane, and it is fun. Like, paradoxically, just being there in the garage, just figuring out how you want to build your Gundam can be surprisingly fun, you know? It's really interesting. I don't know how FromSoft did it, but they made me enjoy just looking at menus for 2 hours straight. It's crazy, dude. It's really enjoyable. Speaking of Gundam, I should probably mention what kind of build I went for. So like I said, I went for a lightweight, speedy type. I used the Firm's or whatever armor core specifically. Like, I used the complete set of that armor. You might notice that it's very pink. I call it the Barbie machine. But the actual colors are from this character from those Evangelion movies that I never watched. I really need to do that at some point. I really like Evangelion, but I just never got around to watching those movies. I really need to do that at some point. But yeah, I saw this character's design and I really like the colors. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make my Gundam look like her. Everybody else is using like the purple from Shinji's Gundam, or not Gundam, Evangelion. Or or Asuka's red Evangelion. Nah, I'm going for the pink girl because I'm different. I'm a special, unique snowflake. But yeah, I went for this shotgun. I forgot what it's called. I'm just gonna show you what it looks like. And then I went with the energy sword that spins around like twice when you fully charge it. Once again, I forgot what it's called. I went for the double barrel missile on my right. And then on my left shoulder, I used the little drone things that you summon like 6 drones or something like that, and they chase the enemy and then just shoot them. Like, it was a really fun build. I quite enjoyed it. And like I mentioned in my second playthrough, I plan on using this tank, and I just basically gave him a bunch of missiles. I don't know how good that's gonna be. I'm probably gonna end up changing it, but yeah, that's what I'm going for. The colors aren't really based on anything. I just like the color orange, and I decided to just try and figure out a good color scheme using orange as like the base core color. And this is what I ended up with. I'm quite proud of how it turned out. I quite like it, but yeah. Anyways, all of that being said, Armored Core isn't perfect by any means. Like, one of the core, like, the issues, I'd say, it's more of a nitpick really. I don't really think it's a problem. It's just kind of like something I wasn't the biggest fan of, was the way the story was delivered. I don't have any problems with just sitting there and having like Walter or Carla or whatever, or Ayer talk to you, you know? I don't really have any problems with that. I'm fine with it. The issue I have is that not a lot really gets explained, you know? Like, there's clearly a story, there's clearly motivation behind these characters, but you don't really get any of it. At the very least, not in your first playthrough. Like, I'm not really entirely sure what's even happening here. Like, I know Walter was like in Rubicon, he was like one of the scientists or whatever. He was looking into the Koro, some bad stuff happened, the fires of Ibis happened or whatever. And now Walter is trying to like destroy Koro because he feels bad about what happened and he thinks Koro is dangerous. And Carla is helping him out because she was also with Walter. And then Ayer is a Rubiconian and she wants to like protect Koro or whatever. But I also have no idea who Ayer is. I just know that she like randomly started talking to us after the boss fight with like the guy with a bunch of missiles or whatever. I'll show a quick little like gif of it or whatever, I don't know. A quick little clip. And then I know Rusty is also helping out Ayer. I'm guessing he's a Rubiconian, but I ended up choosing the path where I help out Walter. And the reason I did that is because like I know Walter. I have an actual relationship with Walter. Like, I'm his mercenary. I'm just doing what he's telling me to do. And then I know you can like betray Carla, but like at the moment I was like, I like Carla, and Carla is friends with Walter, and I like Walter, so I'm like, why would I betray Carla, you know? Like, I don't even know who Ayer is. She's just a voice that started talking to me, you know? So I ended up helping out Walter and then Carla, and at the end I fought Ayer, and yeah, that's the ending I got. I got the Fires of Raven, which was a pretty interesting ending. Basically, I guess history sees the Raven or 621 as a villain, which is interesting. It's interesting that the ending I got makes me a villain, basically. Or depending on how you look at it, I don't know. I'm definitely interested in seeing what the other endings are, but like I said, my issue with like the way the story is delivered is that not a lot really gets explained. You're just kind of sitting there for like anywhere between 1 or 2 minutes. The characters just kind of talk to you real quick, and they're like, hey, here's your next mission. This is what you're going to do. And I'm like, okay, cool, I'll go do that, I guess. Like, it gives you a little bit of context for why you're going on this specific mission, but the actual like story doesn't really get explained that much. And I get it. That's how FromSoft does stuff. I get it. I understand. But as somebody who hasn't really played the Dark Souls games, and you know, somebody who enjoys story, like, I don't really mind. Like, hell, I can play like massive JRPGs that have like cutscenes that go on for like 30 minutes or an hour, no problem. Like, I don't have any issues with that. My problem is just that the story doesn't really get explained that much. At least not in the first playthrough. Like I said, I haven't played the second, I haven't played the third. Maybe this issue won't be a problem once I actually do those playthroughs. But currently, as of right now, only having done the first playthrough, it is a nitpick that I have. It is an issue that I have. But yeah, all of that being said, I quite enjoyed Armored Core. I can't really give it like a solid rating just because I haven't done... in my eyes, I haven't really finished the game because there's still the second and third playthrough that I have to do. But currently, from only doing one playthrough, I give it a solid 9. You know, the only reason it's not a 10 is because of that small issue I have with the story. But like I said, the second and third playthrough might fix that issue, and if it does, perfect 10 out of 10 game. Really enjoyed it, highly recommend, super fun. And yeah, I don't know when the hell Armored Core 7 is gonna come out, if that even happens. I mean, hell, maybe Armored Core 6 is gonna get DLC. I have no idea. But whenever the next Armored Core comes out, I'm definitely gonna be there. I'm definitely excited. Maybe I'll finally check out one of those Souls games that I never played. I don't know, maybe. Probably not. Don't hold your breath. What are your thoughts on Armored Core 6? Did you like it? Do you think it's a perfect 10 out of 10 masterpiece? Do you have issues with it? Feel free to let me know in the comments. Feel free to leave a like, dislike, subscribe, or don't. It is up to you, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.